Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on Britain's wealthiest families. We're counting down the names and the fortunes that really define the UK's financial landscape, all based on our source material.
It's a question you hear a lot, right? But the answer, well, it might just surprise you. We're not just talking about a few successful people here. We're talking about entire dynasties, massive empires, and legacies that have been shaping the country for generations. And the concentration of wealth is just immense. According to our sources, just 15 families hold a huge chunk of the nation's riches. So today, we're going to break down who they are and, more importantly, the different paths they took to get to the top. What's so fascinating is that there isn't just one way to get to this level of wealth. It's not a one-size-fits-all story. We're going to look at three completely different blueprints: the industrialist, the financier, and the post-Soviet investor. So, first up, we have the Agarwal family. Their story is a classic tale of industrial power, building a global giant pretty much from scratch to a net worth that's now over $10 billion.
The whole thing started with the family patriarch, Anil Agarwal, who began with a pretty simple cable manufacturing business. That grew into Vedanta Resources, which is now an absolute powerhouse in metals and mining. But what's really incredible is their commitment to give back. They've pledged to donate 75% of their family fortune, something inspired by Bill Gates. Okay, so from heavy industry, let's pivot to the world of high finance with the Platt family, led by Michael Platt. His path to riches started when he co-founded one of Europe's biggest hedge funds, Blue Crest Capital Management.
And this just goes to show you, the road to billions can start from a really personal place. It wasn't some grand corporate plan at first. Nope. It was his grandmother, guiding him through his very first stock purchase when he was just a teenager. That little spark ignited a career that built a $17 billion fortune. Wild.
All right, our third blueprint for building this kind of wealth comes from Alisher Luzmanov. Now, this path was carved out during the, let's say, chaotic economic times right after the Soviet Union collapsed, all through some very strategic investments in newly privatized companies. So the key here was really all about timing and seizing the opportunity. Usmanov built his fortune by snapping up major stakes in huge metals and telecom companies like Metallo Invest and Megaphone during that massive period of change, and then later diversified into global tech.
Okay, let's switch gears and compare two totally different kinds of massive fortunes. We're talking about the inherited power of the landed aristocracy versus a global empire that was built from a single shop.
When you think of old money in the UK, the Grosvenor family is basically the textbook example. Their wealth isn't tied up in stocks or flashy tech startups. It's in land, it's in legacy, and it's in one of Britain's most prestigious titles. And the source of that legacy? The Dukedom of Westminster, a title that was created way back by Queen Victoria. This isn't just a fancy name. It comes with huge areas of prime real estate, especially in London, and a long tradition of social duty that's been passed down for generations.
Now, for a complete 180, we have the Weston family. Their story doesn't start with a royal title. It starts with a Canadian baker who bought one single bakery in Toronto back in 1884.
So you can see the contrast so clearly here. On one side, you've got wealth from inherited land and a title. On the other, a massive global retail empire built over generations from that single bakery which now owns iconic brands like Primark and Fortnum & Mason. Two absolutely huge fortunes from two completely different worlds.
So we've seen the blueprints for how this kind of wealth gets built, but now it's time for the final countdown. And trust me, the numbers are about to get truly astronomical as we reveal the top of the top. Kicking off our final climb are the Reuben brothers, with a fortune of over $25 billion. David and Simon Reuben started out in industries like carpets and scrap metal before making some incredibly savvy investments in real estate and the Russian metals market. Just edging them out, we have the Dyson family, with a net worth of $26.6 billion. Now, we all know James Dyson for totally revolutionizing the vacuum cleaner, but the family's wealth has since diversified into huge agricultural estates, a super yacht, and private jets. And here we have them, maybe the most famous family in the entire world, the British Royals, with an estimated wealth of $30 billion. This fortune is drawn from assets like the Crown Estate, the Duchy of Cornwall, and of course, the incredible economic power of their global brand.
All right, we've finally reached the summit. After looking at industrialists, financiers, old money, and new tech, it is time to reveal the single wealthiest family in the United Kingdom, according to our source material.
Just look at this chart for a second.
The scale is incredible. You see the massive fortunes of the Dyson and royal families, but then that last bar just keeps on climbing. The gap at the very, very top is substantial.
And that final bar? It belongs to the Hinduja family. For decades, they have been an absolute force of nature in both UK and Asian business, pretty much always ranking among the wealthiest.
Their net worth is a staggering $31.7 billion. That's a figure that puts them at the absolute pinnacle of wealth in the entire country. So how in the world do they build this colossal fortune? It's through the Hinduja Group, this sprawling global conglomerate with major holdings in automotive giants like Ashok Leyland, energy with Gulf Oil, and huge interests in international banking in both Switzerland and India.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. As we've seen, these massive fortunes are built from industry, finance, land, innovation, you name it. They shape entire economies and influence culture. And it leaves us with one heck of a question. When a family accumulates wealth on this kind of scale, what is their ultimate legacy? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.